Hi folks, here we have an answer essentially to another Quora question. In this case it was, how much money does it take to make a board game? Well, make a board game is very unclear. So you really have two possibilities. How much money does it take to design a board game? And how much money does it take to publish a board game? Well, designing a board game can be done very cheaply. Back in the day, I had maps that were on tracing paper. I used whatever cardboard pieces happened to be around, used dice that I had left around, and so essentially I was spending very little to no money. Nowadays, I use a computer and I use computer software. And if we totaled up the cost of those things, that would be quite substantial. But of course, I can use the computer for lots and lots of different games and lots of other game-related purposes. And the same with the software. So even today, the question becomes the pieces. Now, if you want to get people to play test your game, and your game is designed to use 3D pieces like plastic figures, then you really ought to have plastic figures when you try the game. You don't need the art, but I think you need the figures because it helps attract people to play the game. Even something as simple as a card game. I have some sleeves. I usually make my cards with business cardstock, essentially business cards, which limits what I can put on them, but that's a good thing. And then I put them in sleeves, and I get fancy sleeves with fancy artwork, cheap because I have a source for it. And consequently, people look at that and they're attracted to play the game, oddly enough. It works. Now, to publish a game, you need a lot of money, of course, unless you're doing self-publishing through something like thegamecrafter.com, where it is print on demand. And so a copy is printed only when somebody buys it, and consequently there are hardly any upfront costs. Again, you need software that is appropriate to make it, and you need to spend a lot of time, but you're not spending money. But to get it published, to get it manufactured, you need to be able to pay the publisher, and then we're talking thousands of dollars generally. But that depends so much on the scope of the game, the size of the game, the details of the game, and how many units you're going to publish, that it's very difficult to say anything closer than, well, thousands of dollars. And of course, the way that's done nowadays is people go to Kickstarter and raise the money to do it that way. So they don't need money up front. They get the money through Kickstarter. The upshot of this is it costs very little to make a board game. Thanks for listening.